For more than 4 decades, Al Roker has been a steady presence in American homes. His warmth, humor, and unmistakable voice have accompanied viewers through historic moments, everyday forecasts, and countless mornings that began with a sense of reassurance simply because he was there. But behind that familiar smile is a life shaped not just by success, but by emotional endurance, an endurance strengthened by his wife, journalist Deborah Roberts. Deborah has spent her own career asking difficult questions, listening carefully, and telling stories with empathy. Yet the most meaningful role she plays happens far from the camera. Together, she and Al have navigated seasons of life that required honesty, patience, and a willingness to acknowledge emotional strain without allowing it to take center stage. In midlife, challenges rarely arrive loudly. They ripple quietly through routines, relationships, and expectations. For Al, those moments didn't always show themselves on screen. He remained upbeat, reliable, and generous with laughter. But those closest to him say there were periods when the weight of responsibility, career demands, health concerns, and the pressure of always being on required a deeper kind of resilience. Deborah understood that weight instinctively. Rather than framing those moments as obstacles, she approached them as shared responsibilities. She listened without rushing to fix. She supported without overshadowing. And perhaps most importantly, she helped create a home where emotional honesty was allowed, even when the outside world expected constant optimism. For viewers in their 60s, this story feels deeply familiar. By that age, most people know that emotional well-being is not about avoiding stress, but about managing it with grace. It's about recognizing when to slow down, when to lean on someone else, and when to accept that strength can coexist with vulnerability. Al Roker's continued presence on television reflects that understanding. Over the years, his humor has softened, his reflections have deepened, and his connection with audiences has grown more personal, without ever becoming performative. There's a sense now that he speaks not just as a broadcaster, but as someone who has lived through complexity and come out with perspective intact. Deborah's influence in that journey is undeniable. In long marriages, especially those lived partly in the public eye, love often expresses itself through steadiness rather than spectacle, through mutual routines, through mutual respect, through an understanding that emotional health is not a solo pursuit, but a collective one. Friends describe their relationship as grounded and intentional. When life demanded adjustment, they adjusted together. When emotional strain surfaced, it was acknowledged, not dramatized, not hidden, simply understood as part of being human. That approach resonates powerfully with an older audience, because by this stage of life, people know that real strength isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about maintaining dignity while navigating uncertainty. It's about showing up for the people you love, even when the path forward isn't perfectly clear. Al Roker's journey is not defined by a single confession or moment of revelation. It's defined by continuity, by the decision to keep moving forward with humor, humility, and honesty, supported by a partner who understands the emotional landscape as deeply as he does. Deborah Roberts remains beside him, not as a background presence, but as a stabilizing force, a reminder that behind every public figure is often a private partnership quietly doing the real work. For those who have lived long enough to understand life's emotional undercurrents, this story offers reassurance that resilience can be gentle, that love can be practical, and that sometimes the most powerful acts of care happen far from the spotlight, where they are felt rather than seen. And that, in the end, may be the most enduring forecast of all.